Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So let's take a look at some Eth charts in this video. Had what I thought was a pretty good trade setup a few days ago. This looked like a cup and handle. I tweeted about it. We can argue whether or not it is or isn't, but it looked convincing enough to me. So I go long somewhere up here and stopped out somewhere around here. And hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles as a breakout trader at multi-month highs for ETH. I still think this is possible as far as where the next move would go if up is the way. If we compare this to BTC, it doesn't look as overbought as BTC does in the past quarter, Q4, since October 1st. You know, since October 1st, BTC is a rocket ship. ETH is kind of a paper airplane. It's kind of just stalled out. But to be fair, it moved more earlier in the year than BTC did. So a bit of a rotation game there. There's a 1.14 million ETH locked in the 2.0 staking contract. There's a declining amount of ETH locked into DeFi right now. Inflation's at 4.3%. Grayscale's buying. So I don't know, there's a bunch of conflicting supply demand stuff, but if I just look at technicals, it still looks okay. It's just not, I'm not going to write home to Ma about it. You know, it's not like smacking me in the face with a long trade at this point. But if we do get above 636, or whatever this is, 640, I'm going to reopen those positions. This isn't like a not long situation if we do break that level. It just is going to look less obvious, I think. If we look at the daily cloud for ETH, it's sideways. You know, I mean, you could argue ascending triangle on this, which may end towards the end of the month, but this still looks fine trend-wise. It's further above the 200-day moving average, this red line here, than it has been for most of the year. You know, just eyeballing it looks like it doesn't like being this overbought from the 200. So that's some reason to pause the long side of the trades, but I think it still looks fine. One issue is if this retraces mean reverts to the Kijun and doesn't bounce, it's going to initiate some sort of mini edge-to-edge move here on the cloud. You know, like it did here, it just went to the other edge, and then eventually we get that TK recross above the cloud. But that's always the safest long position entry. Either bullish TK across with a Kumo breakout or a bullish TK recross above the cloud. So that's what I'd like to see in Q1. You know, have the mean reversion happen, let all the people who are long get margin called, wash away anybody who's long at the top, and then just leave me ready to long the bottom. You know, that's what I want to see going into January, February, March. But unlike BTC here, there isn't necessarily a C-clamp. I mean, it's there. It's just not as dramatic as it is on BTC. If we look at a different type of trend indicator, Alligator Fractal, basically you go long when the three MAs cross bullish for the first time, and you use the fractals as a trailing stop loss as well as a way to add to your position. So currently, realistically, the trailing stop is at this red line, the median line, at around 560, basically this low. If we go below 560, I think ETH is over for the moment as far as the trend is concerned, and you're adding anything above highs, which is like no-brainer, right? 640, 630, something up there. So for the most part, this indicator tells you what you already know and feel, but it just helps quantify what's going on. So definitely still bullish. Safest entry, again, down here, just like it is in the cloud. You're waiting on that TK recross or the Kumo breakout, that sort of situation. And if we look at the weekly, we're actually through the weekly cloud. It was quite the journey from, let's see, this is the cloud here. From July 2018 to December 2020, price was below the cloud that entire time. So now we have all sorts of new narratives. Besides ICOs, we have DeFi, we've got ETH 2.0. So that may be enough to sustain this rascal and give it some sort of long-term bullish trend. We're still waiting on the lagging span to get above the cloud, above the price, which will happen maybe in July 2021, 30 periods from now. So it's got a ways to go to be 100% bullish. This isn't like BTC bullish, but not much is, you know. Mean reversion is around 350. But overall, I mean, this obviously has been quite the year for ETH, considering it opened at around $1.30, went to sub 100, and now it's at 600. I mean, that's a year, right? But notice how we had to wash out all of the ICO treasuries, we had to wash out all the narratives, and from the ashes rise anew in ETH 2.0 in DeFi, or so they tell me. One other thing I'll say about this is the top side, flat Kumo equals magnet, so top side around 750 as far as potentials for this year. I'm really not bullish on ETH past 750. I think it's going to need to cool off for a little while. It's going to need to relax. I'm bullish on ETH into Q2. Again, if we can die off in Q1 purposefully just to be ready to pick up the bag in Q2 when historically alts and ETH does well, I'm there for it. I'm on board. Sign me up. Here is the pitchfork. Using these 3 points, we get a rate of change that illustrates a potential price range at specific time points. The median line is where price likes to live, and you can see it bounced in and around there a few times, bounced above the median line several times. So this is going to act as a magnet for price. We're overbought up here, we're oversold down here. So somewhere around 420 is that median line. You know, I don't expect, even if we mean revert, I don't expect below 420 into Q1. You know, I think it's going to take something substantial to get us below 420 between now and Q2 2021. You know, if we can get to 250 in Q1, I'll be there. You know, if I can sell at 750 and get back in at 250, ideal. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's something to watch for. So we are approaching the top side of the pitchfork as far as overbought conditions are concerned. So again, I don't think there's too much upside here. There's definitely a decent long trade to be had, but this is going to need some relaxation before it gets any massive extensions, I think. If we look at next year's yearly pivots, an estimation of them, the main pivot's going to be at 440, 250 the low, 790, 800 the high. As far as the current range, nothing too shocking there. R5 is going to be somewhere around 15. You know, if this gets above this yearly pivot, or above this pitchfork next year, it's going to get interesting, right? Because that would be above a 1K, above 15K in mid-year. I think 1500 mid-year is a decent target, definitely. 15 to 2K is kind of my expectation for Q2 next year, assuming we get some sort of pullback in Q1. You know, this is really trying to stand back and guess and see what I can finagle here, but that's what I'd like to see. Then lastly, ETH BTC, I say this like every video for the past 10 weeks. I just don't see a trade here. If you trade this and make money, I applaud you. This is me golf clapping for you. I just don't. There's just too much of a mess here. I mean, there was a trade, there was an Adam and Eve trade here, there was a triangle trade here, W, whatever. Ever since then, I don't see anything here. You know, historically there's been failed diamond bottoms. There's been a nice Adam and Eve here. It's been a macro double top here. I mean, there's really just been like very few. This is the 2-day chart, by the way. So since 2017, there's really been, in my opinion, very few setups, maybe 4 or 5. So it's brewing something right now. I don't know what this is going to be, but I think this eventually goes to 05. So maybe if you're banking on that, you're long here anyway, just because. But I really don't think there's a trade here on ETH BTC. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if you think, are you long ETH here? Are you short ETH here? Are you excited about ETH 2.0? Could you care less? Let me know in the comments. Happy trading.